we've created a world that our bodies weren't designed to live in, and it's just trying to get everybody's attention at the same time. And we've been taught that if you feel uncomfortable, that's the problem. Solve for the discomfort. So numb it, medicate it, band-aid over it, shut it up, pray it away, whatever nonsense that is. Like, just get rid of the noise. And we can do that now. We have a lot of technology, a lot of medicine. We can get rid of the noise, and our houses are burning down around us. Our country's burning down around us.
Welcome to the Hope in Real Life podcast with Jason Gore. Our team is passionate and committed to bringing you more hope in the everyday, real areas of your life. If this conversation and content is valuable for you, please do us a favor. Like, subscribe, and even share. You never know how valuable it could be to share a little bit of hope with someone else. Let's get the conversation started. Well, welcome, Hope in Real Life family. We have a treat here with us today. This week, we are talking about how to build a non-anxious life. And we have a very special guest here with us, this gentleman, and he'll probably laugh at the fact that I said gentleman. He has 2 PhDs. He is the host of the Dr. John Delony Show, co-host of the Ramsey Show, has written a book recently called Building a Non-Anxious Life, #1 national bestselling book. I'm telling you, the book has been valuable for me in my life personally. Welcome to the show, Dr. John Delony.
Dude, what's up, Jason? Thanks for opening your house up, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, we'll jump right in. We had a little bit of time to talk before we even got started. Who knows where this podcast is going to go given our similar interests, but we'll start out at least on topic. And so we're talking about how to build a non-anxious life. We know that anxiety right now is just running rapid in our world. Let's just start with a real simple question to a subject matter expert. What is anxiety?
Man, anxiety is simply a smoke detector in your kitchen telling you that something's probably on fire. And I wish it was more complicated than that. I can throw all kinds of different analogies. It's the beeping in your car when your seatbelt's undone. It's the gas gauge. It's just an alarm system that God designed inside of our bodies to let us know that, hey, your body has detected something in the environment that's not safe.
Yeah, I love in your book how you're really clear to highlight, and you say it over and over again. Hey, anxiety isn't the problem.
Not the problem, yeah.
It's just here to let us know that something else is going on. Maybe, could you just talk for a moment, maybe just about your personal experience in life with anxiety?
Oh, yeah, dude, it buried me, man. And I'm a 200 pounds, 6'2" Texan, man. And my dad was a homicide detective and a SWAT hostage negotiator. We don't get those things. And, As I looked at the roots of it all, my dad was, like I said, he was a homicide detective, and then he quit halfway through my childhood to become it was before this was an actual job, but he was one of the pioneers of youth ministry, and he became a youth pastor at the time at a church, about 1,000 members. At the time was huge. Now that's a good entry point to a church, right? But and I remember there was just seasons we didn't have enough money for groceries, man. And we had one car that my parents shared. We didn't have a lot. And I remember at a young age, I remember thinking, if this is what the public thinks of public servants, I'm out. Yeah. I'm going to go get security. I'm going to stop this tension that's always in my home, financial tension, relationship tension. I'm going to go make some money and get a bunch of titles. And I went and did it, man. I went and got it and knocked it out. And I was working at a university. And at the university, I had 3 different jobs there. And everything about my identity was I was the guy that would say yes to everything. Sunday school, I'm in. So, hey, I need someone to lead the college ministry. I'm in. Hey, can somebody take over this other department? That leader just transitioned out. I'm in. I'll take that too. I was associate dean. I was a professor. I was part of a think tank and I was leading this. And then my body just said, hey, I quit. I'm out. Yeah. And I was also 24/7. I was in hospitals dealing with kids' trauma and calling parents and telling them their kids had passed away. That was just the job. And my body just said, I'm out. I've been trying to get your attention for years and you're not listening. And so I quit. And I didn't have a psychology for that.
Yeah. Our stories are kind of similar in that. So my introduction to anxiety, and our listeners know some of this. I mean, I wrestled my whole life, wrestled through college, came out of school, and even in my family, like I was the guy. Like if someone needed something, if there were pressures that needed to be dealt with, if there was conflict that needed to be dealt with, that was me. Ended up in ministry. And about 4 years ago, I was serving as the executive pastor here at Hope. and our founding pastor who had started the church about 25 years prior at the time, 26, and he just wasn't in a healthy place. He was pretty open about that. Was going on sabbatical. The plan was to go on sabbatical at Christmas, come back at Easter. And I remember, so we kind of take the week off after Christmas leading into New Year. And then I remember my first day back in the office that day. And I'll bet by lunchtime, 6 different people had come by my office and said, "Hey, what are you going to do if he doesn't come back?" And I was like, "What? What do you mean if he doesn't come back? Of course he's going to come back. I mean, look, and you know what? Even if he doesn't, we learn all the right things to say. I was like, even if he doesn't come back, I mean, God loves this church more than we do. He's got a plan. And so the same thing happened throughout the day. I got home that evening, and at the time, I believe my oldest son was 12, and he came to me and said, "Hey, Dad, what do you think about going for a jog together?" I said, "Yeah, that sounds great. Let's do it." So I went in the bedroom, changed my shirt, and I was about to walk out of the bedroom door, and I was like, "Is my chest tight? This is weird." And so I called my wife back to the back, and I said, "I feel like my chest is tight." Well, she says, "Well, you're not having trouble breathing or anything like that, are you?" I was like, "No, I'm not. I think I'm having trouble breathing. I don't know what's going on. This feels weird." And so I laid down. And then from that moment on, for the next 6 months, I was convinced that I had a heart problem. I mean, I'd had a friend just a few years earlier that had some open heart surgery stuff. And so, I mean, I got every single test you could take that culminated a few months later, having a CAT scan with ink in my body and with my cardiologist telling me, "Listen, we've done everything we can do. And I want you to know that your heart is just as healthy as I assumed it was the first time I saw you. You really need to take a good look at the stressors in your life." To which I thought, who are you and how do you know what my life is like? But
Hey, this is what happened. You committed the cardinal, like, you wanna wake God up. You say to somebody, "No, don't worry, God's got a plan." And he's like,
yeah,
you ain't gonna gotta planned them. That's what you did, man.
Yeah,
And he's
yeah.
like, "All right,
yeah.
here we go, brother."
So listen, I mean, anxiety, we hear people talking about it all the time. We have people experiencing it at a time. It seems like it's just being talked about more and more and more, which is a good thing. Why do you think it's seemingly impacting so many more people right now?
Actually, you know what? I'll answer that question. I'm starting to wonder if it is a good thing. I'm starting to think that our obsession with labels and pathologies, it's becoming an identity, and it's
Mhm.
becoming an entry point into every conversation we have, and it's becoming an excuse to not do hard things. We can talk about that later.
Oh, that's
Um,
good.
I think at the end of the day, we created a world that our bodies weren't designed to live in, that just don't honor creation, don't honor limitation, don't honor a healthy way to exist. And I don't believe, I'm not one of these like guys with 12 YouTube followers who does his show out of a trunk of a car. I don't think this is all nefarious. I don't think we're that smart. I think we all technology moved real fast, and I think we all really loved the advancements in problem solving, right? Like food and water. You can just touch a button on your phone and food will show up right where you're sitting. That's
Yeah.
never happened in human history.
Right.
That's amazing. And our body's designed to do really hard, stressful things for a while, carry hard things over long periods of time, chase things down. We're not designed, our bodies aren't designed to eat apples every day. It's designed to eat apples once for a few weeks every year. And
Yeah.
it's amazing that we can have an apple every day. And our body's like, whoa, that's a lot of sugar and fiber, guys.
Yeah.
So all that to say is, I think in pursuing comfort, I love air conditioning. I love leather seats in a car. We've created a world that our bodies weren't designed to live in. And it's just trying to get everybody's attention at the same time. And we've been taught that if you feel uncomfortable, that's the problem. Solve for the discomfort. So numb it, medicate it, Band-Aid over it, shut it up, pray it away, whatever nonsense that is. Like, just get rid of the noise. And we can do that now. We have a lot of technology, a lot of medicine. We can get rid of the noise. And our houses are burning down around us. Our country's burning down around us.
So say there is a listener out there that maybe their story is similar to what you said. My body's shutting down. Or maybe it's like me, like, what's going on? What's this tension? What is this panic that I'm feeling? What's this anxiety that I'm feeling? What what would you recommend as a next step? I mean, even in light of what you just said, I mean, what would be steps someone should take to try to figure out how to cope, how to deal, how to engage?
Often people are a little bit disoriented when I sit down with them one-on-one in person, because I usually will smile real big and I'll tell them, hey, your body's working perfectly. And that's a disorient, like, what? It's like, no, your body's working perfectly. We'll just use you for example. Imagine for a minute, the God of the cosmos goes, Jason, I picked you to lead all these families and people. You do HR stuff, and you're going to get all the emails when the toilet on floor 3 doesn't work. Also, you got to keep your marriage together and your kids, stay in shape, and you should start a podcast too. Of course, your body's going to go, hey, right? It's working perfectly.
Right.
And so I think I want most people to exhale and not sprint in the kitchen to shut the alarm off, but instead exhale for a second and just look around and go, what's my body trying to protect me from? What's my body figuring out in the environment that's not safe? Is it my spouse? Is it my job? Is it my kid walks in the front door and slams the door and goes in their room, and I can brush it off and go, those kids. But dude, my guts know that my relationship with my kid is pretty fractured right now. Like it's a matter of asking your body. It's the old Ted Lasso, man. Be curious. Just be curious, and don't get angry. Just be curious.
Yeah. Hope in Real Life family, I want to take a moment and let you know about a resource that we have for you for your own personal development, spiritual enrichment, and really a way for you to find a bit more hope in real life. We have a tool for you called the Hope in Real Life app. It offers things like parenting tips, financial resources, marriage insights. If you're looking for it, there's even Bible reading plans in there. And there's a community where you can even share prayer requests and know that someone is praying for you for whatever it is that you have going on in your life. It's available right now in the Apple App Store or in Google Play. You can search Hope in Real Life in both stores, or you can use the download link that is in the show notes. Remember, tomorrow can be better than today, and hope is possible even in real life. So you wrote this book, Building a Non-Anxious Life, and you say in there that the reason why I'm writing this book is because I do believe there's hope on the other side of whatever it is, or even in the midst of it. Can you just tell us just a little bit more about what your hope was for in writing this book, and which I appreciate what you said before we got on, like, hey, I'm not selling anything, but I mean, I think it's a valuable resource. What was the heart behind, what was your intention behind writing the book to begin with?
Well, I've spent 20 years working as a dean of students and a professor, and most of those years I spent working with kids with learning exceptionalities, kids that needed extra time, that had OCD, that ADHD, had autism, had all sorts of different challenges, and then I would work with students who had all sorts of struggles, and then the families started circling. And here's what became very clear over the last 10 or 15 years, very different than my first 5 years. Is this increasing? It's a cloud that's hanging over us culturally. And it's a cloud of disempowerment, a cloud of this happened to you. This is all you will ever be. Or you did this thing. This is all you're ever going to be. And go in the corner, sit down, and somebody will come rescue you, because you are now less than. You always will be. Oh, your brain spins up when you get nervous. Yeah, it's called a this. You have it. Go over there. You're going to be less than.
Yeah.
And I watched these young people do amazing things. And I watched people who lost everything. I've hugged mothers in the night when their child has passed away in the next room over.
Yeah.
I just got done having a meeting right before lunch with a dad that I walked with him and his wife when his 4-year-old daughter got pediatric cancer. We walked together for a year until we had a memorial service a few weeks ago. And he walked in and he's still standing. I see this every single day. And there's not another voice to counter this idea that all of y'all are terrible. All of y'all are broken. Everybody's worthless. And if you have something, if you've accomplished something, if God has blessed you with something, well, it's because you ripped somebody else off. I'm just sick of that voice. And I've seen when the worst happens, people show up.
Yeah.
And I used to just be staggered by the number of resources people had in the middle of the night, even when they said they had nobody. All I have to say is people keep showing up. People keep showing up. And I believe there's light out there.
Yeah.
And I think it's the swimming upstream these days is I'm not going to believe it's all coming down. I don't buy it. The kingdom of God is never in trouble.
Yeah.
My system might be, my dream for my church might be, my whatever, my political party might be. Kingdom of God's never in trouble.
Yeah.
The light is always on. And so, man, if I can bring people from a place of you're less than, you're dysfunctional to no, dude, your body's working perfectly. You probably can't afford that car and that house, and that job's pretty abusive. Let's talk about that. You need to fix your marriage. Let's talk about that. Dude, let's reinterject some life into people and give them some hope and give them some energy so they can go change their life.
Yeah, man, that's so good. Our church, it's people often talk about like weekend services and things like that. And hey, like this sermon was great, or that song was great, or that moment in that service was great. I'm telling you, I would trade all of those things. There is nothing like a group of people, and a lot of our listeners, aren't believers. Maybe they're questioning spirituality, but I would tell you, I would trade all of that for showing what I would say is the body of Christ, the church, actually showing up in people's lives when there's a time of need. I mean, that's when you know, okay, no, there actually is hope in this world. There's people that are following after Jesus. They're following after something bigger themselves, and they actually want to bring hope. Man, that's more powerful than any weekend service that anybody's ever going to see or experience.
Well, I don't know if I put this in the book or not. It was my wife's third miscarriage right in a row, and this one was an ectopic pregnancy, and it ruptured. And she was a West Texas hardcore farm girl. She's pretty tough. I wouldn't fight her. You probably shouldn't either. But she had decided like this isn't happening, and I reject the fact that my body's doing this a third time. And so she sat in the living room, and essentially she almost bled out in the house. And I picked up my son from school, and she drove herself to the ER. I had no idea what was going on. I was at work, and I get this scream. She's screaming into the phone. She's in so much pain as she's driving down the highway. And I knew something was up. I didn't realize how bad it was. I walked into the hospital. I saw the head of the University Medical Center OBGYN. She was a colleague of mine. And I saw her. We call them in the emergency response in the crisis world, we call them crazy eyes. When another responder across the room can look at you in a way, and you know instantly, oh, this scene is live. This is not a finished scene. And I remember holding my son's hand, and he was about 3 at the time, maybe 4. And I remember exhaling, and I thought to myself, this is the last time I ever see my wife alive. As the head ran her down the hallway. Long story short, somebody came and picked up my son, and when I called somebody to pick him up, I guess somebody called somebody who called somebody, a 6'4" rancher from West Texas, cowboy hat, boots, the whole thing. He's also a children's author. I was sitting in the emergency room by myself, just sitting in the corner all alone. And about an hour in, he walks in, and he sits down next to me, and I just nodded to him. He nodded. Neither of us said any words, none. We sat there for about another hour. The doctor burst in the doors, and she said, your wife's going to be okay. We lost a baby, but your wife's going to be okay. And I looked over, and I was sitting cross-legged, and my big old tough West Texas rancher buddy reaches over and grabs the toe of my shoe. And he started crying tears I didn't have yet. And I'm telling you, Jason, that's the closest to Jesus I've ever been.
Wow.
He said no words, 0 words. He just showed up. I don't even know how he got there. I don't know who called him. He just showed up. And I'm with you, man. I think I think we blow past. There's no Rich Mullins quote that Christians so often over spiritualize Jesus, and we just blow by the, hey, dude, cup of water.
Yeah.
Least of these, widows, orphans, go there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And man, if we had a team of people who showed up with hurting 15-year-olds and sick 40-year-olds and brought cups of water. I have a mentor of mine. He's a experimental psychologist, but he's a professor at a pretty renowned faith-based university. And he said the entire face of the Christian church could be changed between the hours of 12 p.m. and 1 p.m. on Sunday afternoons if Christians would go to restaurants and would be the most obnoxious tippers that ever existed.
Yeah. Yeah.
And instead, in the restaurant industry, nobody wants Sunday afternoon shifts.
Yep.
And so if they would just make it so insane that those Christian people are so crazy with their generosity, the whole thing would change. 1 hour, but that's not considered, right? That's not considered scientific enough or like religious enough or pious enough.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, man, the fruit is so low hanging right now to give people hope and to shine a light. It's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm going to come back to something that you said, but just I think there's so much low hanging fruit all over the place. I mean, depending on whether you're listening to to yourself. I mean, that to actually do something good or with high integrity or with a significant work ethic or with consistency over time, the bar is just so low right now.
I told my son that recently. He's 14, and we were doing he doesn't understand. Like, he grew up when my wife and I had nothing. We had no anything. And it was a terrifying time. And so we've been really blessed the last few years, but he still has that in his nervous system. And so he was cleaning the like literally shoveling cha-cha out of the horse stalls at our neighbor's place out in the woods in Nashville. And he came home all just smelling terrible, but he had a smile on his face that you can only get after working really hard out in summer, out in the heat. And I looked at him and I said, I need you to hear me. The bar has never been lower in human history for a guy like you, who's
that's right.
To be a person of integrity, work really hard, shake hands, follow God. Like, I told him, I smiled, I go, you're going to own it all.
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't want to, Dad. I don't want to. But it's like, yeah, the bar is so low to love people right now.
Yeah.
It's really wild.
Hope in Real Life family, I want to pause for a moment and let you know about an opportunity that I believe can help you find a bit more hope in everyday life. Listen, I know a lot of our viewers probably aren't a part of a church, or maybe you gave up on the church a long time ago. And believe me, possibly for good reason. I understand. But I don't want you to miss out on the hope that you can actually experience by journeying alongside of a group of people that really are seeking God's best for their lives. If you are the least bit curious, we try to make this as simple for you as we possibly can. Wherever it is that you digest digital content, podcasts, you can go to the podcast store. You can check it out on YouTube and just search Hope Community Church. You'll be able to find our messages there and check those out. Or if you actually want to tune in during a service time, you can go to gethope.tv at 4:15 or 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, or you can tune in at 9:30 or 11:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Again, that's at gethope.tv. We hope that you'll take a chance with us and experience what it is God has for you in your life. You're going to find practical messages that will help you find hope in the everyday moments of your life. Hope you'll check it out. I'm going to go back to what you were saying about he didn't say a thing. It's ironic you mentioned, so I was earlier this morning, I was reading through Exodus, and I was hit by something that had never hit me before.
As we all do on a good Wednesday morning.
Oh, no. So
me too, Jason, me too.
No. My kids and I, listen, my kids and I and my wife, we've committed to this read through the Bible in a year plan. We've never done this before. And please don't hear, because I'm just as a heads up, I'm the one in the family who's like catching up regularly. So I'm the one who's behind. But I was going back and looking at some notes, but I was struck in Exodus 17, there's this passage where the Israelites, they're kind of drawn out into battle. And you've got Moses, who's like, he's the leader of the whole people, right? So he's like, of course, he's important. And then you've got Joshua, who's like leading the army on the front lines. But in the story, for whatever reason, when Moses' hands are up in the air, the Israelite army is winning. But as he gets tired and his arms fall, they start losing. And you see Aaron, Moses' brother, come over when Moses is tired, and it says he gets him a rock for him to sit on, and he stands beside him and holds his arms up for him because he's tired. And like, there's not a lot of superhero stories written about Aaron, about the people that just come along and help and don't say a word. They just do what needs to be done, whether it's helping the leader or whether it's helping the person on the front lines. And man, I just was left thinking, man, what a story that would be if we just were a people that were known for, hey, what can I do to lift somebody's arms up?
Well, we have a culture that's so obsessed with being the guy with their arms up.
Yeah.
And I think most of us are caught off guard by, you get put in that position. Okay, raise your arms, go ahead. And we don't realize how exhausting and tiring and disorienting that is.
Yeah.
And we didn't bother to do the work on the front end, which is have a group of people go with us. And if Jesus needed a gang, I need a gang. And if Moses needed a gang, I need a gang.
Yeah.
And on the other side of it is, man, dude, we can go down a rabbit hole here. You can edit this out. It was super convicting to me. Unfortunately, the part of my job working with college students, I dealt with students who died by suicide a lot.
Yeah.
And I did too many memorial services to count. And I had to call too many moms and dads and say, your kid's no longer alive to count. And it was as I dug into why is this happening and why is this happening, I always came back to this one sentence like, oh, you thought the greatest gift you could give those who love you was to not be here anymore. You thought you were a burden. And we've created an ecosystem where everybody thinks they're a burden. Hey, I don't know. I don't want to clown on your church. Again, edit this part out. But I haven't been to a church recently that doesn't have either a paid position or a committee whose job is to greet people. Like, we have to create that. That's a job now. Like saying hello is designated for what happened, right? And here's the thing. I think it comes from a good place. I don't want to bother anybody. I don't want to be weird. I don't want to freak people out. I don't want to ask for a ride. I'll just Uber. I don't want to borrow a cup of sugar and some eggs. I'll just Instacart. And we have all these opportunities to not engage with each other. And at the end of the day, we start getting heavier and heavier and heavier. Dude, I'm just a burden, man. I don't want to go over there and hold his arms up. He may have a skin issue and I don't want to embarrass him. I don't want to shame him. And then we just watch the whole thing collapse instead of just saying, you know what, I'm showing up, man. If that guy don't want me here, he can tell me, but I'm going to go be a part of loving him as best I can. We're not a burden. None of us are. None of us are. We can be annoying, real annoying. I could be, dude, trust me, I can be real annoying. My wife tells me I'm a lot, but we're not a burden, man. Yeah. We're not. And the more I see myself as that way, the more I shell up and the more my body screams, hey, you got to have connection. And the more that guy who needs me just to sit by him in the hospital. You know what I mean? I would have got the note. I would have exhaled. I would have got the message from the doctor. I would have exhaled. I would have visited my wife. And then I would have had to go home and be with my son. And man, I would have held all of that would have been locked inside me. Yeah. And thank God somebody showed up.
Well, what a fantastic interview so far with Dr. John Delony. In fact, it is going so well, we don't want to cut it as short as our normal podcast. We have decided to extend this over into 2 episodes. So we're going to press pause here and we will pick it back up in the next episode. Thanks for tuning in. Keep sharing hope. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Hope in Real Life podcast. If this content was valuable for you, don't forget, like, subscribe, share. You never know how important it could be to bring a little hope into someone else's life. There's even a place here for you to comment. We would love to hear from you and hear your feedback. Until next time, let's keep sharing hope.